All right, everybody, it's time for Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Channel 7 WXYZ sports reporter Justin Rose. Justin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. This is quite the setup you guys got going on. Love watching the new episodes every week.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I have to ask you, though, a couple personal questions before we get into the sports talk here. It's been a tough year, but you have had some great accomplishments happen to you in the past year here. You got married, so you're in the first year of
hmm
marriage right now. And just recently, you won a Michigan Emmy for Best Sports Anchor, which I know you have won for Best Sports Reporter before. What did it mean to you to win as an anchor?
It's kind of that extra level. You don't really think about, as a growing journalist, you're thinking like, well, I think it would be cool to win once for anything. And then you win one and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible. And then you realize, okay, well, reporter is not the same as anchor. And then when you win for anchor, I don't know. It was just one of those things where it's like when you think of all the great anchors for sports in the state of Michigan, and to win that category, when you think of all the names that pop into your head, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that my name's in that mix now. And from 10 years ago, I would have never believed that that would have happened. So it was a really cool thing. It was a little upsetting we didn't get to celebrate with our peers at the ceremony, but nonetheless, I've got it shined up and in the living room. So it'll be a nice trophy to look at for a while.
Well, a huge congratulations there. And as I mentioned, you're in your first year of marriage. What an interesting first year. You guys doing okay? She hasn't kicked you out yet?
No, we haven't. And it's funny because my wife actually has been just starting a brand new dance-based fitness boutique in Royal Oak called AKT. And they only opened their doors for about 60 days before they had to shut it down. So then the business model went to online virtual. So she's been at home working out, kicking me out of the bedroom at 6 a.m. so she could do workout classes. And I've been sleeping on the couch for a different reason. So it's been good. We've been cohabitating very well in our first year of marriage. It hasn't been the worst thing in the world. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's great to hear because I've heard some stories that the wives are getting sick of their husbands really quick. So gold star for you. I'm really happy to hear
Thank you.
that
Thank you.
she hasn't gotten rid of you yet. But we are here to talk some Red Wings hockey, Justin. And before we get into it, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask this anyway. What was your reaction to the draft lottery and where the Red Wings fell and everything that went with it?
Detroit versus everybody. It's always going to be that way. We should just get to know it by now and get used to it. Look, the NHL draft lottery has to be revamped in the future. I mean, you cannot tell me, and I understand there are extenuating circumstances this year, but you can't tell me that a team that's playing for the Stanley Cup should have better odds than any other team that's not to win the lottery. And I'm not talking about them getting the number one overall seed, which they did. I'm talking about in general. You shouldn't have an opportunity. They need to reevaluate that from the floor up. And it broke my heart for the franchise. It broke my heart for Steve Yzerman and all the Red Wings fans who have been so patient. Because the one thing I will say is when you look at the sports scene, in Detroit, there's been really good patience with the Red Wings. We have not seen firings of head coaches. We have not seen a firing of a GM. It was a smoother process, if you will, from Ken Holland to Steve Yzerman. And the fan base isn't restless. And you don't see that with the Pistons. You don't see that with the Tigers. You don't see that with the Lions. So they needed a win, and they didn't get it. And that's kind of where my mind went immediately to.
So aside from the Red Wings not being where we all feel that they should be, where they actually really should be, it's not about feelings at that point, but a team, like you said, that is playing for the Stanley Cup is going to have the number one pick. And I personally, teams don't like to lose. I don't think they tank. But do you think there's teams out there that are looking at this like, oh, well, if we don't make it, we're going to have a chance at that number one pick?
Absolutely. I've already seen some of my old cohorts in Pittsburgh talking about it because they're one of the teams that's playing in that first round robin, if you will, to get to the next level. And they're like, well, it's not a bad consolation prize if the Penguins go out there and get swept in 4 games. Then all of a sudden you're looking at having an opportunity to have the number one overall pick. And if a team like Pittsburgh, who had that number one overall pick, who already had that franchise-changing player in Sidney Crosby come through, the fact that they're going to have another crack at it while they have a crack for playing for the Stanley Cup, that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, it actually makes my stomach turn a little bit. I'm not even going to lie about it. There's a couple teams where if they end up with that number one pick, it just will not sit well at all. But looking at the Red Wings, they are picking fourth. Let's assume right now that Jamie Drysdale, the defenseman, is on the board at 4. We're looking at this Red Wings team who had the worst goal differential in the league by a long shot last year. So if Jamie Drysdale is there, do you think they go defenseman and pick Jamie Drysdale, or do you think they're going to look for someone that could be an elite goal scorer?
It's really tough to tell. Steve Yzerman has only had one draft under his belt here with the Red Wings, and he did something that nobody thought he was going to do. Like nobody thought he was going to do. So for us to sit here, Drysdale's the guy. Look, I would love to have a puck-moving defenseman who can take defense into offense and help transition the team up down the ice. Sure, anyone would like that. But Steve Yzerman knows this game really well, and I'm going to kind of wait and see before I give you a grandiose prediction. Yes, Drysdale is going to be an unbelievable player at the next level. How soon can be up playing at the NHL level? That's the big thing. And if Yzerman thinks that there's somebody else who's somewhere else that we may not even be talking about, like he did last year with his draft pick, kind of a guy no one really thought was going to go that high, he might be more NHL ready. And I think Steve's starting to say, hey, we want patience, right? I asked for patience, but he's getting a little bit of himself, I think, ready to kind of get back into contention. So if there's a guy there who can contribute earlier, perhaps, than Drysdale, maybe he goes there. But I still like Drysdale to pick there at 4.
We also know the Red Wings need to address their goaltending situation, which probably will be done in free agency. 4 is really high to pick a goaltender. They could pick him in the later rounds too. But what do you think will happen at that goaltender spot? Do you think it's a free agency pick? Do you think it's a draft pick?
It's got to be free agency. The thing about goaltending is you can't pick. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury was the last top 5 goaltender picked, I believe. That was ages ago. So the fact of the matter is you can't go draft for a goaltender when you need help now. And the Red Wings cap situation puts them in a little bit of they can spend a little bit more money on the goaltending position this year. Jonathan Bernier has already been locked up. I think he has one more year on the 3-year deal that he signed a couple of years ago. So he knows, what you're going to get from him in his final year, and he's going to be playing for his next contract. So he's going to play well. If you go out and you spend a little extra cash on another goaltender, maybe you get a guy for 3, 4, 5 years that can help you transition some of these younger guys up. But they need to draft a goaltender and have somebody coming up through the ranks. But to go that high, no, they can't do that in the first or second round. They need to find somebody and develop them.
So a goaltender in free agency, and we know that the Red Wings are going to have to make a splash probably elsewhere in free agency, get some veterans, couple-year deals. What direction do you see them going in aside from goaltender? Who could be some other free agency pickups?
Now, here's the problem, too, is they're not going to be able to go and spend a ton of money on the marquee names that you're going to find in free agency anyways. I look at what Steve Yzerman's trying to do is he's trying to align this to line up with Dylan Larkin and Bertuzzi and Mantha. When are their peak years? 2 years? Is it 4 years? Is it 5 years? Where are we at in the rebuild? We all have to kind of look back and look at these contracts of free agents that are out there right now on who's available right now. But you're not going to go and spend, top money for a guy that is going to be maybe good in the next 3 years, and maybe he curtails off. That's a two-player of a friendly deal. You got to wait until you're saying, we're going for it. We're going for it. We're going to make it now. And I think Steve knows next year is not the year. That's not to say they're not going to play their tails off and try to get back into the mix, but that was supposed to be this year, right? They were only supposed to be out of the playoffs by a couple of points where the season basically ended. Well, we all know how that ended up turning out. So they can't go and spend a huge, free agent money on 1 or 2 guys right now. I think they're going to have to take the second tier guys and they're going to have to patch the holes. And then they're going to have to look in 2 or 3 years who comes out off the books that they can really go after.
Let's focus a little on this return to play. The NHLPA approved the CBA, which means they have approved the return to play plan, which training camps are going on right now. That's super exciting. Teams are flying to their hub cities on July 26th. August 1st is that tentative start date. Hopefully we get there and everything happens on August 1st. But aside from the draft situation, these play-in rounds are going to be pretty exciting. Are there any matchups that you're excited to see or anything that you're looking forward to watching?
You know what I'm looking forward to watching is the March Madness style timing they have of these games, because between two cities, every 2 hours, a new game is going to be starting. Starting at noon, you're going to be watching hockey from noon until like 10 o'clock at night. And I think that's the most exciting thing that could come out of this entire thing, because it will have that March Madness feel. You know, I always keep an eye. I used to cover the Penguins for 2 years, and I know people in Detroit hate the Penguins, but I'm still a little partial to my Penguins. I've followed them throughout their runs to conference finals when I was there in 12 and 13. But, you know, I'll watch them, but I'll watch all these games because I'm just like everybody else. Give me the content. Give me the sports. Give me the live. And so I'll be tuned in all day long, and it's kind of nice to be working from home, you know, because then we can watch it and we're not running around out there in the field too much.
It's going to be so exciting. I feel the same way you do. Just having a day full of watching hockey, it sounds like a dream right now. It's almost hard to believe that it's actually going to happen in a couple of weeks.
I don't even know if I have enough things locked up in the fridge yet for it, so I got to do a little bit of a grocery run.
Get on that. Good thing you have a couple weeks. We all need to get on that, stocking our fridge and watch a full Saturday of hockey. But Justin, thank you so much for joining us again. It has been great catching up with you, and a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light.